obvious. This doesn't end well unless it ends. Can't just report the fucking obvious.
I don't care what a critic got to say, I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and
Just
run
a
it all back. I'm
motherfucking
the
jump.
new era, about to
Just
snap
go.
back. You ain't
I'm the fucking guy, ready to roll this morning. No notes. Last time I had notes, didn't even use them. So I got no notes. But I really, because I'm going to be talking from the heart today and sharing with you that just like it didn't even dawn on me until last night that I have a real, true life story, an experience that happened to me where I was fired, basically, let go. And I worked for myself, but I'll explain the nuances with that. I was fired and lost everything I had. I've talked about losing everything I had before, but I'm going to share it in a different way today. That I lost everything very similar to Jimmy Kimmel. So I think I have a relatable story that yeah, I was fired. And I'll explain the similarities and the differences, but they're more alike than not. What I did, I wasn't disparaging someone, but still, the essence of what happened is exactly what happened to me. And it was, Jimmy Kimmel's going to be okay. Jimmy's been making 16 mil a year. Jimmy's going to be okay. We do not have to worry about Jimmy. And he's still relatively young. He'll find something else to do, or maybe he'll be back, however that works out. But I just thought, with so many people talking about it, that I would be able to share differently because I could share my real experience on what happened, how I felt about it. Was it right? Was it wrong? And you can take from that what you will. But very quickly, we got our boy Leo here today. I'm with Leo in his studio. What's going on, my man?
Not much. Another beautiful day. Friday.
Another beautiful day.
Nice and cloudy. A little bit cooler.
Well, you know what we're doing tonight, right? We're going to the Phoenix Mercury game because they won on Wednesday night.
Hell yeah.
And they dominated on Wednesday night.
Dominated.
Well, I think we won by like 28 points. We watched the whole game.
Really?
We kicked the shit out of the Liberty. Now, there's a catch.
Okay.
And that the person who really carried them the first game, remember I said, was Brianna Stewart.
Injury?
And she was hurting a little bit on Wednesday. She didn't have a lot of minutes.
Oh, she still played, but she just
played,
didn't
but
play
she
that
didn't
much.
have a lot of minutes.
Gotcha.
And it made a difference in the ball game.
Okay.
You know, maybe if they were missing somebody else,
not that big of a deal.
Maybe. But she's really been the one. And they're last year's champions. And then you have we watched also on Wednesday, we watched the Indiana Fever play. And totally shocking that they won the game. No, that was last. Was that last night? It was last night. So they won last night is when we watched it. I watched so many games. We also watched the game from the other night, the Valkyrie and Minnesota.
Okay.
And it was very, very close. Really, really close. I thought maybe the Valkyrie were going to pull it out, but Minnesota did what they've been the best team. Every other, so there's 4 games, right? They start at quarterfinals. There's 8 teams. There's 4 games. And 3 of the quarterfinal matchups have gone to game 3. And the only one not is the Minnesota Lynx. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Looks like.
What about the Aces and Storm?
Aces Storm 2-1.
Okay, so they're. What do you mean 2-1? Did that go to game 3? Yeah, that did too. I thought they all did. That's the one I wasn't sure about. But for the Indiana Fever, to beat the Dream, who was the number 3 team at the end of the regular season, to beat Atlanta at Atlanta. So different than the Phoenix Mercury, where we lost at home and then New York lost at home.
Yep.
They both won at home. So Atlanta started out, they won at home, and they lost at Indiana. It was back at Atlanta then, or they lost at Indiana. They're back at Atlanta, and then they lost that.
Looks like it was a really close game throughout
Super
the entire
close,
game.
super close, but a really good game. But specifically, really great for the Indiana Fever because the Indiana Fever are without, I think, 3 players, but they're without 2 of their top 4. They're without their number 1 player and their number 4 player. So they've done this, finished the season, made the playoffs, and Caitlin Clark isn't there. And Sophie Cunningham isn't there, who I consider to be their number 4 player because you have Aaliyah Boston. I don't know if I would put her at 2 or 3. I'm kind of leaning toward 3. If you just talked to me at the beginning of the season, I would have said she was their number 2 player. But Kelsey Mitchell's played so great this year that to me, she is their number 2. So, again, you have your 2 and 3. You're without your 1 and 4, and you win in the first round of the playoffs against a really good Atlanta Dream team. That's pretty awesome. And, yeah. You know who didn't play well for New York Liberty is Natasha Cloud. She played for us last year. She did not play particularly well, which was kind of crazy. But our big 3, our big dominant 3 all came up huge. You know, all double digits in scoring and into the teens. And they just shared control of the game and defense. It was defense and the fact that they made a lot of the basic shots that I complain about when they're not made.
Yeah.
They made those layups. That was great, but it was surely defense because New York had so many terrible turnovers, very high turnovers. So, but they were still there. I mean, it was for a minute, and then Phoenix just pulled away. They were just relentless, and they didn't take their foot off the gas. They just didn't give them a chance to come back, which was good, as opposed to the Valkyrie and Minnesota Lynx. The Minnesota Lynx came from a 17-point deficit down at halftime to win the game. So there you go. So we're excited about tonight and hope that they win and move on. We'll see what happens. So I wanted to get that out there quickly and then just move on and get to what I really want to spend time on today, which is my own experience with being fired for actions that I took. So let me explain here about Jimmy Kimmel, because obviously the left is pointing the finger at Trump. They're pointing the finger at the FCC. They're claiming free speech. They're claiming this was wrong. Here's the thing. Jimmy Kimmel has a morality clause in his contract. So, you can fire somebody if you're not union, because look at the people who have been fired over this past week people who've commented on social media, put up videos, and their companies have fired them, right?
Okay.
We've all followed that. The ones that have been put on leave, like the firemen from Toledo, like teachers, all of those people are union. So there's a union contract, right? But they were put on leave, and then they still can ultimately end up being fired. But it's just a different process, okay? Because the union may fight for them or not fight for them, depending on how strong the union is and what the union wants to look like. And I hope you people understand, the top echelon of the unions, they make deals with the top corporate people that you don't always know about. Hey, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. I'll let this one slide. I'll get that's what they do. There's a give and take with them. They do that kind of stuff. And they might just say, this one's really important to us, but there's those couple other cases that are, maybe not highlighted, but these couple other employees that you brought to our attention that, we can maybe work something out with those and they can keep their jobs, but this one needs to go. And they'll make deals like that. But the people that haven't been let go immediately are the people that are union. They're the teachers, law enforcement. I don't know if there was law. There was some, I think, but I saw firemen a couple of times. It's just weird. But if you worked at Starbucks, you're an at-will employee. If you are an at-will employee, you can very easily be terminated for any reason. Any reason. Jimmy Kimmel was not an at-will employee. And although he belongs to the actors' unions, it's not the same thing. Not how their contracts work. You have your individual contracts. So you have the NBA contract, and then the players that covers things for all the players, and then you have your individual contracts, right? Jimmy Kimmel's situation is more like that. But I'm telling you, it's standard in these types of contracts to have some type of morality clause in there. Like if you just do some shit that's not related to the company, but they think because of that and your association with the company makes the company look bad, they can get rid of you. So here's my situation. And again, this happened to me, but I didn't put what had happened to me 11 years ago, I didn't put the two together and say, wow, I have a real good example of this in my own personal life. So here's a recap of what happened to me. I was a successful financial advisor. I had been in the top 10 with this company, 10 out of 11 years. And the year that I wasn't in the number 10, I was in the top 10, I was number 11. I never got to be number 1, but I did get to be number 2 in a year. So, and out of several thousand different financial advisors. But my setup was different. I didn't work for a Merrill Lynch. What I did is I worked for a broker-dealer that I processed my business through. And I always revealed who that broker-dealer was to my clients. I was legally obligated to, but it was not the same. it was being independent, ran my own business. They didn't tell us how to run our businesses. They told us and refreshed us, which you totally understand, being in banking, Leo, all the continuing education and the reminders of, the information we have to take in and know your client and, all of those kinds of things. So there's always refreshers, usually every couple years that you got to do that.
Actually, every few months.
Yeah. And the more licenses you have, the more of that you're going to be
Having to
update yourself on, right? Here I am, this financial advisor, Wall Street guy, got heavy into motorcycles, going through the longest divorce in the Lucas County history. And during that time, I decided to join a motorcycle club. And then after a little while, after a couple years, I decided to move on to an outlaw motorcycle club with another guy. And this outlaw motorcycle club, we didn't do illegal shit as a club. I know, you probably think they all say that. Yeah, something like that. But, many of us did things. And obviously, when I lost everything, or even before I lost everything, I was doing some things that weren't legal or great. I'll just give you a quick example. Here I am, an alcoholic, right? Don't drink anymore, sober as fuck. And for a little while, I sold moonshine. I partnered up with a guy who was making the moonshine, and I was the distributor. He made it, I distributed it. Now, he might have sold some to friends here and there, but I got 98% of the shit that he made, and I sold it. So that kind of stuff. But that wasn't part of the club. This is what I'm saying either. So I'm doing that kind of stuff and other things with the club while I'm in the club, not with them, while I'm in the club.
Okay.
And somebody owed me some money. I'd been trying to do some other business things, and I'd given him some money, and I was supposed to be paid back. It wasn't a gift. And it ended up totaling about $15,000. Now, here I am at the time making around $800,000 a year after 24 years in the business. And $15,000 a year wasn't nothing. And apparently I thought it was enough money that it was worth going after. So I went after the person. We got into an argument, I think on the phone. And at that point in my life, particularly right about that time, my fuse was very short. And I definitely learned a lesson that whatever you're going to do, you don't have to do at that moment. You can do it later. But I showed up at his house, went after him. He wasn't there. He came coming down the street with another guy, tried to jump me. We kind of fought to a draw, and then they took off. I got on my bike, and as I was getting on my bike, starting it to leave, the cop showed up. Because one of the neighbors called the cops. Now, the whole neighborhood, we did this in the street between two rows of houses.
Okay.
It's in a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So people are outside in this neighborhood, and it was a poor neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Not a great part of town. And the cops showed up, and then I wouldn't let them into my motorcycle bags. It was locked. And they got in anyways, which was wrong. They should have impounded my bike, got a warrant, and then got in it. But anyways, they did. I had a loaded gun in there. Had some prescription drugs in there. that I actually had a prescription for. But funny thing, when it came to trial, because I made a plea deal, if I didn't admit to that, then they weren't going to give me the plea deal. It's so fucking weird, dude. So weird. And then they never went after the guys that I got in a fight with that it started all, like they weren't innocent, in the whole thing. And because I had previously been on radio and been taken off the air, I was making a comeback on the radio. I was making a comeback in media.
Okay.
Not to the same extent as I had been doing originally, but I was. Had a second big article done on me in the Toledo Free Press. Had talked about the first time and me getting sober. And so this is like 4 years after I got sober, about. So, jail, get out, get an attorney. He was supposed to be good, one of the top criminal attorneys. It didn't. We ended up not fighting it, and that was just so dumb on my part. Because when I fight, I win. And I took the plea deal, and ever since that time, I've never taken a plea deal. And I've won every single time. But I went through that. So then I was on, probation for a while. But when that all happened, before I was even convicted, because that takes like over a year to do, right? The company that I ran my financial business to, the broker-dealer, well, I had to pay for insurance, what they call E&O insurance, which any of your bank reps would have to have too. If they have a Series 6 and they can do mutual funds and stuff,
Gotcha.
They are covered by what's called errors and omissions insurance. And either they're paying for it out of their salary or the bank is paying for it,
Mm-hmm.
Whatever their setup is. They might have a base salary and then commission or whatever their deal is, okay? But there is errors and omissions insurance. And mine got pulled, and they didn't tell me that the insurance company decided to drop me. And I think the company had something to do with it as well. And then they didn't tell me until, you only have a couple weeks. And the week they told me was Thanksgiving. So some people, the most people are going to work probably on Thanksgiving. A lot of people, it's going to be 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're going to have Thanksgiving off, and a whole lot of people will have Friday off too. Maybe, if you're a union auto worker or something, maybe you're working on Friday, but they're probably still getting some kind of holiday pay associated with it. I don't know. Just my guess, but a lot of people are going to have that off. And especially in the banking world or investment world, right?
Yeah.
So how am I going to get that replaced? And I wasn't able to. And they stole my clients, gave them to someone else that actually worked for me and didn't pay me because those were my clients, not theirs. When you work for a Merrill Lynch or a Chase Bank, they're Chase's clients. And if you leave Chase and try to take those clients, they're probably going to come after you for it. There's going to be a brawl. Now, they might be able to take them anyways or something. And people have a right to go and invest their money with who they want, but it's not going to be an easy transition. They're not just going to let that shit go. And basically, it was a morality clause for me. That's because I'm like, how can you do? I haven't been convicted. And they basically said it didn't matter. It didn't matter, without a conviction, even if I was found not guilty, just the whole attention to it and everything. And because it was in the newspapers, obviously, again, because I'm in the media again. So the whole city of Toledo, a whole 250,000 people know what's going on. And I lost my business, which was valued at roughly $3.5 million at the time. My income, which was right around $800,000. And in the not too long, it was going to be in the millions, even the way I was doing it. Because if I'd have been smarter, as I've said before, I would have become Patrick Bet David or some of these other guys that, hired 100 advisors, 100 insurance reps. That's what I should have done. But I didn't. But still very good. I was doing very well. In Toledo, Ohio, in 2013, and that period, and you're making between $700,000-800,000, and I wasn't working that hard at that point, just because of other things going on, going through the divorce and that kind of stuff. And having a big house and the value of the business, I was doing good by standards in Toledo, Ohio. Obviously, people much wealthier, but I was doing good. But I lost it because of the bad decision that I made. I made a bad decision. It was on me. And as much as I think that the other things that happened to me were unfair, like the not paying me for my clients and stuff, and how the whole process was handled, especially when I had had such a close relationship with the owners of the broker-dealer. It was me. I had to own it. And it sucked. I've told you. A picture just came up yesterday, a picture from 10 years ago on my Facebook feed. And it was a picture I took in a trailer of one of the guys that I worked with who was sleepy during one of the 20-minute breaks we would get. We'd get like a 20-minute break. And these guys, would be dead tired all the time, sleeping even in a short break. And I was getting into the supplements, and so I had a little bit of energy, and I used it to kind of promote the supplements a little bit. But I was wearing a hard hat. That was the time I was a professional ditch digger, so I like to call it. I was union labor, journeyman union laborer. Making that's when $25 an hour was still something, because people at McDonald's weren't making $25 an hour. It's a whole lot different when people at McDonald's are making 17 to 20. Yeah, they weren't making that then. They're making 12, 13 bucks an hour 10 years ago, right? So decent money, but not the bigger money. If you were an auto worker, you'd probably start out in that range. But then after so many years, you're going to get up to maybe like $40 an hour back then. But still, it was still, it was what it was. I'm just pointing out it was my bad decision. And it was the morality clause that they used to get me out, and the union didn't really fight for me because I had rubbed some people there the wrong way, because my politics were different. Even though on that job site, because, going into 2016 with Trump, and so I was still there at that point. I started in 15 and then left in 16. The point is that over, roughly half of union workers voted for Trump that first time around in Ohio union workers. But the unions, the heads of they were still taking our union dues and sending it to the Democrats. Well, that's not representing all of the union members because half of us didn't align that way. But in this union, the labor's union, it was a different mix of people. It was different than the electrical union, was different than the carpenters union. It was back when predominantly, and again, Trump made a difference in both of his elections, the black support that he got. But that's just the way the makeup of the union was and who they voted for and what they did. So I didn't get any help there. But that was later. Yeah, they weren't associated with the first time. I got fired for something different there. I got fired for telling a supervisor to fuck off. It happens. But my whole point is the morality clause. It is what it is, and they can fire you. And that's what happened to Jimmy Kimmel. Now, we can talk about and have a separate conversation about the president, or have a separate conversation and include the president and talk about the FCC and the FCC chairman and what he said. And then you not just have ABC Disney, you also have two of the biggest owners of TV stations that partner with ABC. So local ABC affiliates, right? That's the Sinclair, and then there was the other one that begins with an N, whatever the name of that company was. So they do that. And they had issues with what Jimmy Kimmel said. And we're not going to play what Jimmy Kimmel said. Everybody's played. If you haven't seen it by now, you probably don't care about it. Which is okay. You don't have to. I am not for censorship. I am not for the cancel culture. But it's really hard for me to care at all for Jimmy Kimmel or to have any sympathy for the people that lost their jobs for things they posted when they were the ones mainly doing the targeting of conservatives during Trump's first administration and then went all in during COVID. If you didn't say the right thing as a doctor, they'd go after your license. And you may have, doctors don't always agree on treatments. And that's why they'll tell you to get a second opinion, right? And then you can choose what course of action you want to go. But no, that wasn't allowed. It's authoritarian. There's no other word for it. It's authoritarian when you require somebody to get a shot, and then if they don't get the shot, even though they've been at that job for 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, that they get fired, not for bad performance, not because they're costing the company money or losing the company money, but solely because they wouldn't get the shot. And they were let go. And I'm talking about military people. I don't know how many thousands were originally let go over COVID, but it was a pretty decent number. It was probably in the, I'll say, give or take around 8,000. You want to check that
I was
out?
about to say probably more than that.
I don't know. But all military services, how many, based on all military services, were kicked out of the service for not getting the COVID shot? You know, it's going to.
Approximately 8 to 8,300 active and reserve service members.
Involuntary separation. They didn't want to leave service. That was pretty good of me to remember that, huh? I'm doing good. Must be that extra creatine I'm taking. I upped my creatine intake to see if it helps with cognitive abilities. So the normal dose they tell you to take is 5, and I'm doing 5 twice a day now with those Array Tone gummies, which are totally one of the absolute best creatine gummies out there. There might be other good ones, but that one clicks all the categories you want to click to make sure you got a legit good supplement. So, yeah, 8,000. They lost their jobs. I don't know if 8,000 people have lost their jobs over dumb shit they've said about Charlie Kirk. But I'm just talking about that as cancel culture. People being canceled. Doctors being canceled. People being let go for things that they said. Other people have been let go for things. What was, do chat GPT. What was Megyn Kelly fired for? What did Megyn Kelly say that she was fired for? Show was canceled. She parted ways, mainly due to comments she made about blackface that drew widespread criticism. So basically, she was talking about Halloween.
I have no idea.
No, she was. Like, that was up there too. I remember that. People said it. I didn't realize it was the blackface, doing blackface, during Halloween. What, like, it's got it there. Played. It just had the remarks. Play that. Yeah. We'll be skipping this, people. All right, go ahead.
The audio not going through.
Audio's not going through again?
Just give me 1 second here.
And while he's doing that, I'll keep talking.
Yeah, I was about to say you can finish your thought real quick, and then we can come back to this.
But I was gonna reference Megyn Kelly. I was gonna Tucker Carlson. I don't remember what his comments were, but that was some. And he got, when Tucker Carlson, when his show was canceled, Tucker Carlson was number 1 back then with Fox News. Number 1. Whereas Jimmy Kimmel's numbers were very good when he started, but have done nothing but steadily go down the whole time he's had the show. And that's true for almost all of them. But definitely for him, and the ones that talked more politics have done worse than ones that didn't do that as much. Like Fallon, maybe. I think he doesn't always do that. Takes a little bit of a different approach. And back in the days when most of you don't even know, when Johnny Carson did that kind of stuff, he made jokes about presidents of both parties and just wanted to be funny, right? Just wanted to be funny. He wasn't demonizing people, wasn't trying to, attack a side. He never said that he didn't care if one particular side watched his show or not. He never did that. And I think it's okay to target a niche. I kind of do here. This show isn't going to be for everybody. And I'm not trying to take a center road with this to attract both sides. I'm not trying to do that. But in some cases you are. And it used to be in the news you would do that. And also even in comedy you would do that. So we can skip it. You don't have to spend time doing it. We don't have to play it. But it was just my point that we had heavy cancel culture that was dominated by the left. Not too long ago, remember we talked about it? There was the thing at Santan Flats, the restaurant that I talked about.
Yeah.
That a band member near the end of the night said something that was perceived to be inappropriate to a young girl. And the mom went on social media and talked about it, got millions of views. And people all across the country and even in Canada started targeting the restaurant, even though the restaurant had nothing to do with it. And the restaurant handled it as best that they could. And they made sure that person would no longer ever play there again. And they hammered him for it. They were doing that for those couple days. And I stood up online and made comments and videos and even talked to the woman who was the mother of the child and pushed back that hurting the restaurant was not the thing to do or try to do. And they're doing very well, by the way. It's a great place. It's just a good place to go eat, a great place for entertainment. And it's not like it was a house band or anything like that. But that group probably isn't going to get play there anymore, even though that guy was just a fill-in. And if they do get play there, it wasn't going to be anytime soon to get back in the rotation of people who played there. But that particular person will never be allowed back. But I'm just saying, the left does this. We don't do that so much. I'm not saying we don't ever do it, but it's a 9-to-1 difference. For every time we might do it, they're doing it 9 different times. The difference is huge. Because we believe in free speech. Now, we don't believe in saying inappropriate things to small kids, and we don't support pedophiles either, you motherfuckers that want to keep labeling us as pedophiles because we're Trump supporters. You've been trying to get President Trump canceled. We want to talk the truth about it. But my point is, it's very hard for me to have any sympathy for Jimmy Kimmel because I honestly, if you really ask me, I think what he said was really stupid and it was 100% wrong.
But isn't he like a comedian?
Yeah, but what he said, though, first of all, he didn't really make a joke. And then what he said, like I've told you, what makes humor funny is when there's a little bit of truth in there, right? Okay. You got to have a little bit of truth in there. That's why comedians, they used to, anyways, when comedy was good, they would include stereotypes, right? Because stereotypes are not perfect, but they are an indicator of something that's predominant with whatever the stereotype is.
But that goes against your point.
How does it go against my point?
Because there's a lot of stereotypes about the government, and especially MAGA and stuff like that, and Trump.
I'm not following.
There's a lot of because there's obviously a lot of shit that people say about MAGA and Trump and stuff like that. So there's stereotypes about MAGA.
Yeah, there's stereotypes, but I'm saying stereotypes are used for for comedy.
No, I get you.
Okay, but this is not what he did. Okay, he wasn't making that kind of joke about MAGA. He actually told a lie about the shooter. We knew by the time Jimmy Kimmel made those comments that night, it was all out. You had the cops who had press conferences. You had the governor of Utah. You had the Utah Attorney General. Okay, the information was out there that the shooter was not MAGA. Because it first started out, right?
Yeah.
That it was pointed out very early on that it was somebody who was from the left. And we're not the ones that have made it to where we have to care about that over every incident now. They've done it, and we do it to fight back or push back. Okay? So every incident that happens now, you're trying to figure out which side did it come from? Whose side did this guy support? And we, very early on, we knew that he was left-leaning. But then it came out that his parents were conservative, and he was a Christian, and he was a white male. So the left tried to push out then, see, MAGA was wrong, this guy was MAGA. And then more of the stuff about his roommate, because that's what we called his lover, right? That's what we called him at the beginning, was roommate, was transitioning, and then they were also into this shit together. It was a combination of furry and trans shit.
Okay.
And we knew that at the time Jimmy Kimmel made the comments. So he made a blatant lie saying that MAGA was still trying to portray this guy as left and trying to score political points from it, when in fact trying to push that the guy was MAGA, saying he was that, and he wasn't. We pushed back against it, which he acknowledged, because it wasn't true. And it wasn't true because we said it. It wasn't true because law enforcement said so. They had the messages between the shooter and his gay partner. We had all that. And it just, so there was, where was the joke?
Wait, he said it in a joking manner, did he not?
No.
I haven't watched the video, so I don't know, but I just assumed because he's Jimmy Kimmel, he would have said it in like
if
some
it was a joke,
sarcastic
what
tone.
was, I'd like to know what the punchline was. I do know jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wasn't. And just wasn't. And then you put the timing of it in there as well. It's not going to go. It's not. Did he have a right to say it? Absolutely, positively. He has a right to say it. But he doesn't have a right to keep his job. Even though what I did had zero effect on my clients, it's not like I was accused of ripping off a client's investment money. When I was released from or not allowed to take my business through that company anymore, you know, it was, I had no, option, no other choice, but it's just very similar. It's based on something I did, but not something I did to the company directly or any clients. What I did was on my own personal time, even, and yet I still had to pay a price for what I did, for my behavior.
Yeah.
He's doing this on company time. I was just bringing the non-company time up to make the case about the teachers and others who were posting on their own time. But here's the problem. If you're a teacher saying that, a lot of people aren't going to want you to teach their kids. And I'm not talking about 2%. I'm talking it's going to be a good percentage of people. And we do bow to the 2% in a lot of cases now, just because they speak louder. But in this case, we're talking a significant amount of people. And a significant amount of people talked up in this case and didn't appreciate what was said. And the company decided to take action over it. And based on the morality clause, now, it would be nice if Trump and the FCC chairman didn't muddy the waters by saying the stuff that they've said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, as much as I support Trump, and he has a right to say whatever he wants to, and it may not be what presidents usually say, but we've always known this about Trump, that if you attack him, like Rosie O'Donnell attacked him and his family, you know, he called her a fat pig or all the names that he called her. He fought back but he didn't attack her first. I don't know if Trump ever really attacked somebody first, but if somebody comes after, now, should he be above the fray because he's the president and just let it go? That's how a lot of people would handle it, or say that he should. But I'm saying he doesn't, and we know that he doesn't. In knowing that, we still elected him again. I just think it's not helpful in situations like this. Gloat in private. You know what I mean? If the president, if you're happy Jimmy Kimmel got let go, or that his show is at least temporarily off the air, if you're happy about it, just be happy about it. You don't have to make a statement to the press about it. And if you do, you could say, you know, I don't know. I don't really like what he said, but he's allowed to say it. The president could say that.
Mm-hmm.
I totally disagree with him. I don't believe Charlie Kirk himself would be for this.
You don't think so? I think, from what I know, Charlie Kirk is one of the only people, or not only people, but one of the people that actually can take a joke. And that really, because when the South Park thing came out, like he was all for it.
I think you're misunderstanding what I said. We agree that he wouldn't want Jimmy Kimmel to be taken off the air.
Gotcha. Okay, I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wouldn't want Jimmy to be taken off the air. And I do think that Jimmy Kimmel could apologize in a way to say, you know what? I really didn't frame that correctly. You all know how I feel about the Trump administration and other people, but it was a mistake to say, because it was wrong, factually wrong. Mm-hmm. This is an opinion. You can have a different opinion. But if you want to jump in and do this kind of commentary, you should be held to a standard of you should try to get it right. And when you don't get it right, you should be okay with coming back on air or in print and saying, I got it wrong. I thought this, turns out I was wrong. I still don't like those people. They're not my cup of tea. And there's a way to apologize or just acknowledge that what you said was wrong and take ownership of it. But nobody's asking you to kiss the right's ass. Nobody's asking for you to all of a sudden mourn Charlie Kirk, because it would be fake as fuck. I don't want you to do that. I don't want everybody else to mourn Charlie Kirk. But you know what I do want people to do? Stop fucking with us while we mourn him. Stop coming to our vigils and protesting. You are protesting a dead man. And that is wrong. You shouldn't be at that. If you want to do it somewhere else and have a gathering, but don't have it near us, because we would never do that to you. We're not coming to where you are mourning and then not just peacefully protesting, because that doesn't last long. We wouldn't destroy the vigil. We wouldn't destroy the memorial you make or destroy the things you set out to honor your person. We wouldn't come and destroy that shit. We don't do that because it's just not the thing to do. I'm not talking about legality or anything like that. But it's just leave us alone. Now, you know, Dawn and I are going Sunday.
Okay.
And I don't think we're going to get in.
Why?
Honestly. Because I think there's going to be 200,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many tickets they've let people register for, right? You didn't have to pay for them. You did have to register.
You have to get tickets
to get in.
Gotcha.
And it's going to hold between 70 and 80,000, counting the field, depending on how they set it up, right? And you tell me they only made 800,000 or 80,000 tickets? No. They're expecting some people not to show, or I think they want a big crowd. They know 200,000 people will show up because people are going to come from all over. You're going to have people that are going to drive 4 or 5 hours to be there Sunday or come the day before.
Really?
Yeah. This is going to be huge, dude. Everybody's there but Pam Bondi. She's not on the list. But to have the president and vice president there at the same time, I don't even know if that's a good idea, man. Just security-wise. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
I know that there are times they're going to be together, but yeah, it's a list, man. A very extensive list. So the parking lot is going to open to 7. I would never park in the State Farm parking lot anyways. Okay, that would just be stupid. If I can park, I want to park at the outlets, and they'll probably charge, but park at the outlets, and it's a short walk, like very short, like 2 blocks, and you're right at the stadium, right?
Okay.
But so the parking lot's at 7, the doors open at 8, and then it starts at 11, and you know it won't start on time. And that's just a lot for an old person like me to stand and sit around for, that amount of time would be rough if it was over at 11. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm in great shape, but I also feel it nowadays, you know? And I just think depending on how many tickets, that I really don't believe that ticket guarantees me a seat, even if it's the worst seat in the house.
Gotcha. Because there's just going to be
so many people that are registered to come. And then I think what they will do is they will set up speakers outside, and the people that can't get in, I mean, I think they did that for Trump rallies where, 20,000 would get in and there might be 40,000 around the building right? Because they couldn't get in. But do you mean then I got to stand up for all that outside? But I'm going to go anyways. We're going to go and try and see what happens. But one of the things, like I made a prediction and was off on my timing about the left protesting after Trump was elected. I really think that obviously that they're going to come and protest. I don't know if there'll be 100 of them or 1,000 of them. They're going to be tremendously outnumbered, I believe. And if they can bring in numbers more than that, then, dude, all hell's going to break loose. If they do something like that. If they were able to bring in 3,000 to 5,000 people to protest, because they would be coming to protest to be heard, and they want us to hear them. So they're going to be attacking us verbally. And then they might attack somebody that they think is weaker than them, an older person or a female, someone they perceive to be weaker. And we're not going to let that happen. Not there, not that day. Now, maybe I could be totally wrong and they're going to be smart and not show up. There's no reason for them to be there, dude. There's none. What's the good reason for them to be there? Other than they hate somebody that so much.
They have the freedom to do so.
I didn't say they didn't have the freedom. I'm not trying to take their freedom away.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say they're not free to be there. I'm just saying it's not smart. And what do they gain from it? We already know how they feel. They think Charlie Kirk is a racist, a bigot, a homophobe, and a misogynist. And if you ask them to give you examples, which I have done, they'll give you a compilation video that's on Instagram or TikTok that'll have a bunch of one-liners of things that Charlie said that if you only listen to that one thing and you don't know what was said before and after it, doesn't sound great. Most of the racial things that Charlie says are going to be when he talking about race. When Charlie's talking about race, it's usually going to be one of two things. It's either going to be DEI or if it's not DEI, it's going to be crime. And those are the things that he was asked by students when they would do the campus events. And instead of a one-line clip, all I asked people to do is listen to the whole 10 or 15-minute exchange that Charlie has with somebody about DEI or about black pilots. Charlie in no way says black pilots aren't capable or are not good enough to be pilots just because they're black. His point is targeting someone, targeting a number that you have to have a certain percentage of people be a certain color, when maybe their testing isn't as high as someone else's. And don't you really want the person that has, that qualifies the best to get that opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
And there are absolutely black pilots that can do that and do. He's not saying that they're, to me, when you're a racist, you are saying that race is inferior to yours. And again, he's not saying that at all. Or when he talked about black women and their brain processing ability, he wasn't talking about black women as a whole, but you can't get that from the clip. He was talking about specifically 2 black women, and he wasn't wrong. Because Kamala Harris was basically a DEI pick to be to get the Democratic nomination for president. Because here's the truth. If they had had a shortened primary and she had to compete for that nomination with other Democrats, she would not have won. No way in hell would she have won. And Democrats that do know that shit and know the numbers and they know that that's true as well. And even going back a step further, let's say Joe Biden had done the right thing from the very beginning, because remember, he originally said he was just going to do this for 4 years. That's all. He just came out to do it because of Trump, wanted to beat Trump. And because of what Trump said in Charlottesville, which was also a lie, that he repeated, like Jimmy Kimmel did, that he repeated when it had been proven that what Trump said about Charlottesville, that people were saying was not accurate, and it was proven by left-leaning fact checkers. So your Snopes, your ones that lean very much liberal, even said, y'all should stop saying this because it ain't true. Trump didn't mean that white supremacists were good people. He meant there were good people on both sides of the flag issue. Now, there were racists that were on that side, but that doesn't mean that everybody on that side was racist. They just had the same view on that particular thing. But he kept repeating it. But anyways, he was just supposed to be 4 years and done and turn it over. And if he had actually done that, Kamala Harris, even if she'd had been able to go through the whole primary like Biden did and won a second time, but if he had been eliminated and she was competing for that, well, more people would have jumped in the fray since the president wasn't running again. People would have run against her, where they didn't really want to run against a sitting president. And she would have lost, just like she did the first time, when she didn't even get a single vote. She didn't even make it to motherfucking Iowa. Now, you can disagree with Charlie's assessment. You could still disagree with it, that she was a DEI hire. But that's what he was saying. He was not attacking black women as a group. He wasn't attacking Kamala Harris as a black woman. He was attacking her ideas, what she stood for, what she was capable of. And we already had an idea of that because we saw it. And we saw how she handled being. She was the vice president of word salads. What she made the news for more than anything else was the fucked up way she said things. Well, you know, the sky is very beautiful, and often the sky is blue, but sometimes it can be dark. Who the fuck talks that way?
Poets.
That's pretty fucked up that she should be a poet, dude. You know? Come on, man. That is some fucked up shit,
that's
man.
some stuff that you hear and you go, deep.
Yeah. You know when that happens, too? You want me to tell you when that happens? You say it's deep? You're also stoned. I bet that shit's funny as fuck. Can you imagine being stoned listening to Kamala Harris?
I've done it. It's hilarious.
I bet it is, man. That's something I would have done back when I smoked weed.
That's funny as fuck.
But that's my point. That's my point, man. You got to take what Charlie said in context. And if you tell somebody that, oh, you got to take it in context. Oh, you're pulling out the old context card again. Yeah, motherfucker, because it matters.
Context kind of means.
How does it not matter? You can change. You know what? I didn't change it. I didn't delete it. But I actually made a comment, a one-sentence comment, and I put the comma in the wrong place, and it gave it the opposite meaning of what I intended.
Yeah.
A comma did that. And I did it by accident. And somebody pointed it out. And they were right. I didn't delete it, but I said, yeah, you're right. That's not how I meant it.
Yeah.
But you did, if you knew how I meant it based on if you were following the thread and the other things I had said.
The context?
The context, you'd know that I made a mistake. But the person was still absolutely right.
Yeah.
So context always motherfucking matters. Because you can make something change its meaning by just being one sentence, just pulling one sentence out. You can do that because you can do it with just a comma. Yeah. That's the people who are attacking Charlie Kirk have not listened to Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, because I'm so blessed, you guys, and you know I am. I'm so blessed because I get to do Stretch Lab. I do Stretch Lab today. I do that. It's an hour being stretched twice a week. And I'm back on track with my massages. I'm getting a deep tissue massage once a week. And I'm blessed to be able to have the money to spend on that kind of shit. But I was talking to the woman that does that, and we talk for a little bit usually at the beginning of the session as she's starting. Hey, what's going on? How are you? What have you been doing? What concerts have you seen? Whatever. And she knows my politics, you know. And her background, she's Filipino. Okay. And she told me that she didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. She had never heard of Charlie Kirk before.
Okay.
Until this happened. And then she started seeing some things about him and things that people were calling him. And she decided to listen for herself to the real videos, the videos that Charlie posted that are unedited, right? That are showing the whole conversation back and forth. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't post edited videos too. Obviously, you just do that for content here. But to see the whole thing, to listen to the whole thing in context. And she said that she actually agreed with a lot of what he said because Charlie talked about family. Charlie talked about God. And she's very much aligns with being a believer, and family is very important to her. And it is, I don't think it's wrong to say, just like we've brought it up, you know, when you and I have talked about Mexicans in faith and family orientation. I mean, we've talked about Catholic, you know, being Catholic being the dominant religion, and it's a lot. But the reason there's been a shift in the voting here in the United States of Mexican Americans is a lot of that has to do with family values that they align with. That's a big part for them. And it is Filipinos too. I don't know that we can say it's equal amongst, you know, every different ethnicity. But I think it obviously is stronger in some than in others, you know, percentage-wise. I think probably there's the greatest percentage of, if I had to guess, that the greatest percentage, not number of people, just breaking it down by percentage, that European people of European descent who are white, a greater number of them are atheist than any other ethnicity.
I could probably agree with that.
Right? I'm just saying,
I
you're
could
gonna,
probably agree with that.
you know, even if you're not a strong Catholic, or even if you haven't been attending mass, if you're Mexican American, you're still gonna lean that way. You're still not gonna be. You're not gonna be like God doesn't exist as much. I'm not saying that there's no atheists in there. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's not a big percentage.
I think in this generation, that percentage has shot up a lot more than it used to. In the past, maybe you're correct, but I think, especially, I mean, being Hispanic and talking to a lot of people, and that number has definitely shot up a lot more than in the past.
Well, I don't know, because Gen Z seems to more be turning towards God now.
Yeah,
but and that may be that what you're saying is true,
I'm
but
talking about
there's a
Hispanic,
shift.
because I mean Gen Z, a lot of like
you have people who are Gen Z that are Hispanic, right?
Yes, but it's like it's weird. Like the Gen Z, there's like the American washed Mexicans or Hispanics and stuff like that are a lot more American than they are from their native kind of country. But the people that are from more like into the native culture and stuff like that would probably not. So
I see what you're saying.
If
so
that
what
makes
I'm
any sense.
saying is, if we cross the border and go into Mexico,
those Gen Zs are not like Gen Z in America.
right? Two
opposites.
That because the younger Hispanics here are Americanized, a greater percentage of them would be atheist, where versus comparing it to, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I would think that would likely be right if we looked at that. And that's, you know, but still, as a whole, I still believe that a greater percentage of white people are atheists versus any other ethnic group.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that I could probably agree with that.
Yeah. I don't know about Russians, you know, and I don't know, you know, I don't know about that. But it's still, I'm kind of making a generalized point.
Yeah.
And I think my point is fair with that. So that's what we have. If you really, really want, and I praised her for it. I said, you know, even if you had come out, if you had told me today that exactly what you did, and you didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, I would still have a certain measure of respect for you, because you went about figuring it out the right way. And we had another discussion that was really interesting too. And I believe Charlie was talking to a female student. I believe it was either Tennessee or Texas Tech. Or Texas A&M. I could be wrong, but it was recently. But he's talking to this young girl who wasn't in college yet. She was like a senior in high school. And she talks to Charlie. She's a believer. She's a Christian. And her parents are going through a divorce. And her parents are really leaning on her about political beliefs. Her mom happens to be the one that is conservative, which was surprising that it was the mother versus the dad. The dad was the one that was more liberal.
Okay.
And she asked Charlie, the topic was more about what Charlie brought to it is his belief that you should honor your father and your mother.
Yeah.
You should spend time with them, even if you disagree with them. You should spend time with them. You should visit them. You should treat them with respect. You should honor your father and your mother. That was his basic premise or point of view. And he was sharing that with her, because she was like, what do I do? Because they're competing. They're trying to pull me to their side. And instead of trying, because we know Charlie's conservative, instead of trying to convince her to move towards the mom side, Charlie referenced her just being young and that she hasn't formed, all of her political opinions yet. And he didn't try to force that on her. He said, you need to take time to decide that for yourself.
Yeah.
And when your parents try to do this, you should just tell them that, you want to talk about Bible things, that you just want to spend time with them, that you don't particularly want to, that the political issue is not what is number one and important to you, that just being with them and having the time with them is more important and what you'd like to focus that time on versus the politics. What an amazing answer. What an amazing way to handle that whole fucking thing. To not try to persuade that girl in that way and move the focus to God and family, because that's what was number one and number two for Charlie. I think listening to that whole thing says a whole lot about who he was. But again, you can't talk about controversial issues without and have a strong opinion on the controversial issue and not have people that are going to disagree. It's obviously going to happen. But I think we need to get away from this harshness here. You know what? I was starting to make an opinion on Nick Fuentes. You're familiar with Nick?
The name is familiar, but I don't know. I did want to say we did get our first chat. We got David Erickson saying, "What's up, everybody?" So I did put it up here for you.
What did we get?
We got David Erickson saying, "What's up, everybody?"
All right,
our
David.
First ever
Woo,
chat.
woo, woo. Yeah, when you're with me.
Exactly. I guess that's what
when I'm alone in my studio, then I get it, right?
And what was the name? Sorry, David Fuentes?
No, Nick Fuentes.
Nick. And
straighten up or I'm going to look fat. I think, but here's the thing.
Okay.
And I caught myself. My initial opinion of him is not positive.
Gotcha.
Right? But honestly, I can't say that I've listened to more than short, 1 or 2 minute snippets.
Gotcha.
And I need to do the same thing. I need to listen because he's been gaining in some popularity, especially with young men. And why is that? What is he actually saying? And because very easily, much easier than Charlie Kirk, you can definitely point to one-liners that sound very racist, but I don't have the context surrounding it.
Gotcha.
And I may hear the context surrounding it and still believe that he is racist, or I could change my mind. And it could be like, yeah, what he said really, when you take it into context,
makes sense.
He wasn't, again, talking about race in a demeaning way or that being superior. I think that all matters. But here's the thing. It's the same discussion you and I had the other day, and I've had it with several other people. And I had it with my friend Marlon, who's black, but he's conservative. He's also a man of faith. And Marlon, when somebody calls me a racist, how do I prove that I'm not? Same thing we do. I can't. I can't prove it.
Because you just make it worse.
I can't prove it.
Yeah.
So the reason they use that word, and because it's such a strong word, is to shut us down, to shut us up. The reason they're calling us fascist and Nazi and Hitler is to shut us up. And we're not going to shut the fuck up. We're not going to do it. We haven't done it to date. We're not going to do it now. And you've kind of given us a little more resolve now by what's happened because you're outraged. Full circle now with Jimmy Kimmel. You're outraged now about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air for words. But you celebrated the death of someone because of the words. So that's me making it full circle, in that I too have experienced being fired because because of the morality clause. It happened to me. And no one is immune from it. You know, you're just not immune from it. And cancel culture wasn't right before, and it's not right now. But to see the people who pushed cancel culture so hard get an actual taste of it themselves, it's hard for us to not enjoy it a little bit. That's just the truth. We are enjoying it a little bit. We are smiling. We are like, ha ha, motherfucker. How's that feel now? We are. Not saying we should, or that's right, or like we could take a higher road, but maybe I'll take a higher road later. But at the moment, I'm going to laugh. At the moment, I'm going to be like, you're getting what you deserve. You're getting what you tried to do to others. So then maybe we can get to a place where we can agree that it's not right to be done at all. But the market's always going to decide what the market decides. The market's going to decide whether or not they like the new Cracker Barrel or not. The market has the final say, because that's how things work in this country. You had your way, every restaurant would be Cracker Barrel or some other restaurant. All be the same, homogenized. There we go. That's my Friday show, people. And I did a shitty job of telling people throughout the show to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I did get somebody at the bar yesterday at Nando's. I was having lunch at the bar. Mm-hmm. And I did have a really nice talk with a man sitting next to me. He was 62. Oh, wow. So nice, super nice guy. And we had discussions yesterday. And then another couple sat down and they joined the conversation too. And his girlfriend showed up and all that. But he did, like while I was sitting there, he went on YouTube and we found it and he hit the subscribe button. Hell yeah. So I know we added one subscriber yesterday.
I think we've gotten like 12 in the past week.
That I personally recruited. I'm dragging them here one by one. And I need you to do the same. But just appreciate the 5 of you who actually give a shit about the show. We're going to keep doing it for you. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That me, you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new